Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video we're going to carry on looking at the Eventide decks and we're going to look at Death March, which is the black and green deck. So we have 27 creatures, 4 sorceries, 2 enchantments, 3 instants and 24 land, mana curve off to the side there. Let's dive in. So, big theme of the deck is -1/-1 counters and persist. Persist being this ability when a creature with persist dies. If it didn't have -1/-1 counters on it, it comes back from your graveyard with a -1/-1 counter on it. So if you can find a way to remove -1/-1 counters, it will just keep dying and keep coming back, and which is fine. There's also a minor theme of like retrace cards in here, but we'll cover retrace when we get to it. So on the subject of removing -1/-1 counters, let's look at Quill Spike because this is absolute combo gold. So 2 colors and black-green hybrid for a 1/1. You can pay 1 black or 1 green hybrid, remove a -1/-1 counter from a creature you control. Quill Spike gets +3/+3 to 9 to 10. This is a great card. It is, like if you were, improving on this deck, you would definitely, I think, want to have a full set of Quill Spike. Just because it interacts so well with persist creatures, they die, they come back, you immediately take the counter off for only 1 mana, which is crazy. Like, this ability is so cheap. And and then I say they can die again. You've got a few sacrifice effects in here to use them with. Quill Spike is really, really good. Really one of the really good cards in this deck, just because of what it enables, and also the fact it gets +3/+3 as well. It's not just like removing a counter; it's also getting some benefit as well. So yeah, really, really good creature. I'm actually surprised it's not rare, just because of the absolute shenanigans you can do with it. Moving on. So then we have 2 Wickabout Elders. So 4 mana for a 4/4. It comes into play with a -1/-1 counter on it, and you pay 1 green, remove a -1/-1 counter from it to destroy an artifact or enchantment. I like this. I like that it's using its -1/-1 counters as a resource. It means it can, potentially like block creatures with Wither, get extra counters, and then just remove them by using this ability. So repeatable artifact or enchantment destruction is, I think, really good. I like Wickabout Elder. It's a pretty solid card, I think. Even by today's standards, I think it's actually pretty good. And then 3 Rendclaw Trowel, 2 and a hybrid mana for a 2/2. It has Wither and Persist, so it puts -1/-1 counters on creatures when it blocks or is blocked, and when it dies, it comes back with a -1/-1 counter. But as said, you can take it off with Quill Spike and then just carry on again. So one of the rares in the deck is Creekwood Liege. This is great. Well, this is, I think. Oh, would I say this is the strongest liege? It feels like the strongest liege out of all of them, just because of what it does. So it's 1 and 3 hybrid mana, as all the lieges tend to be. It's a 2/2, like all the lieges. It gives its 2 colors +1/+1. So other black creature control get +1/+1, other green creature control +1/+1. At the beginning of your upkeep, you can put a 1/1 black and green worm creature token into play for free. But because of Creekwood Liege's abilities, it's going to actually be a 3/3 worm. So this is, it's a 2/2 creature for 4 that every turn makes a 3/3 creature token for free. That's really, really good, and it can get massively out of hand if it's just not dealt with. It will just poop out a bunch of tokens, and while buffing up all your other stuff as well. So yeah, super, super good rare to have in here. You have 2 Noxious Hatchlings, 3 in a hybrid. This is kind of like all the other hatchlings that we're going to see. So it's a 6/6, comes in with 4 -1/-1 counters on it, has Wither, and whenever you play a black spell, you take a counter off it. Whenever you play a green spell, you take a counter off it. Quill Spike can help get those counters off a bit quicker. And, this having Wither makes it such it's so people just don't want to deal with this, either blocking it or having to attack into it, just because I say even if they swing at it with like a really big creature and you block it, it's going to put 6 -1/-1 counters on it. Wither is like a really, really strong ability, I think. This is like a really good card. Like, just no one wants to deal with it. Really good card, I think. Three Odious Trials, one hybrid mana for a 1/1, and regenerates for one and a hybrid. Pretty good. Like seeing a small cheap creature like this with relatively cheap regeneration cost. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good little common 1-drop. Yeah, I think it's good. And then three Woodlurker Mimics, one colors and hybrid for a 2/1. This is kind of like all the other mimics. When you play a spell that's basically both its colors, so it becomes a 4/5 with Wither until end turn. So green black obviously sharing Wither. Such a strong ability, I think, just to do damage in the form of -1/-1 counters and permanently weaken enemy creatures via combat. Yeah, this is pretty good. I think this it's 4/5 is surprisingly big, and you've got a lot of spells in here which are both black and green, so you could reliably trigger this ability, I think. Yeah, pretty good. You have two Desecrator Hags, so two colors and two hybrid for a 2/2. When it comes into play, return to your hand the creature card in your graveyard with the highest power. If two or more cards are tied for highest power, you choose one of them. This is worse than Gravedigger, actually, because it's technically harder to cast, having a two-colored mana requirement. I suppose you could say it's easier to cast because it's hybrid mana, so you can cast it with green. But you don't get to choose. I mean, you do get to choose the creature type, but you are limited. It has to be the thing with the highest power, rather than just whatever you want. I would just usually pick Gravedigger over this. Although this has the benefits of as well being green, so obviously it counts for, I say, Creekwood Legion stuff. But I think Gravedigger is just straight up better, just because it gets anything. And this, because sometimes you don't want to get the creature with the highest power, you might want to get a smaller utility creature back. Like Quillspike, if your Quillspike dies, yeah, you want to definitely get that back. But yeah, so maybe a bit of I think the first disappointing card, I think, in this deck. Two Hag Hedge Mages, so two colors and a hybrid. These Hedge Mages are pretty cool, I think. There's a whole cycle of them in Eventide. When Hag Hedge Mage comes into play, if you have two or more swamps, you can have a player discard a card. If it comes in play and you have two or more forests, you can put a card in your graveyard on top of your library. So this is a better raise Z effect than the Desecrator Hag. You've got to wait a turn for it because it goes on top of your library. It is also, obviously, these abilities are both dependent on how much land you have. If you play this as early as possible, which is, let's say, turn 3, you're going to miss out getting one of these abilities, I suppose. But yeah, I think both these abilities are really solid, and it being a 2/2 as well, it can potentially do quite a lot, I think, for 3 mana. So yeah, I think like all the Hedge Mages, this one is pretty solid. I don't think any of the Hedge Mages are bad as such. I think they're all fairly solid. And they have two Stalker Hags, which is the green-black kind of triple hybrid uncommon creature. So 3 hybrid mana for a 3/2 with Swamp Walk and Forest Walk. Just not as good, I think, as the other creatures in this cycle. Just because its abilities are conditional. If you're not playing it against a deck that's using swamps or forests, it's just a 3/2 with no other abilities. Obviously against those decks, it's really good because then it's essentially a 3/2 unblockable. But yeah, it's just a bit too swingy. There's kind of no middle ground with it. It's either you get what I'm saying. So the other rare in the deck, Grimdark Pac-Man here. Doomgape, so 4 colors and 3 hybrid mana for a 10/10 trample. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. So it's going to keep eating stuff, but at least you get a benefit from it eating your own stuff. And if it comes to it, it has to eat itself. You've got Creekwood Leech churning out a 3/3 worm every turn, which is perfect to keep this thing fed. And you don't need to keep fed for long because it's a 10/10 with trample. You don't need to keep it around that long to win the game. So yeah, really, really good, strong rare. This would be a really impressive rare to open up for a new player to see this and just be whoa, 10/10. I mean, yeah, and it's got trample, which is so nice to see because normally I'm so disappointingly used to big creatures like this not having trample, but it's it's good when it does. So yeah, Doomgape is a pretty good rare, I think. 2 Marrowbone Nora, 1 black mana for 1/1. Tap target player exiles a card in their graveyard. Whenever you play a black spell, you can untap Marrowbone Nora. I suppose it's fine as a 1-drop, but I don't know what it's really doing in the deck, I suppose. I suppose there's some graveyard hate needed in the block, just because there's retrace cards, which spells that you can cast from your graveyard by discarding land. So this is maybe here to like get rid of those, but it's a fairly niche ability, I think. And it's not a graveyard focused block. It's not like Odyssey or like Innistrad or something. So this feels like a little. At least it's only one black mana, I suppose. But yeah, pretty rubbish choice. I think they could have been better here. Two Roughshod Mentors, 6 mana for a 5/4, gives green creatures you control trample, which is good. I say this goes really nicely on the Creekwood Liege's Worms, so then you're making 3/3 tramples. This is a good thing for Quill Spike after it's eaten a bunch of counters and gotten a really big buff, at least then it's going to trample over. So yeah, this is fine. And like on its own, it's like a 5/4 trample at the very minimum on its own, which I think is okay for 6. And then non-creature spells, so we have 2 Soul Reaps, 1 cast and 1 black. Destroy a non-green creature, which is weird to see on a black removal spell, like non-green. Its control loses 3 life if you played another black spell this turn, so this is pretty good to potentially kill off a creature and make the opponent lose 3 life for only 2 mana. I think that's pretty solid. Yeah, that's okay. A single Siphon Life, so 1 colours and 2 black. Target player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life, and it has this retrace ability that I've sort of talked about. So retrace is you can cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying its other costs. So kind of like flashback. It's kind of like a combination of flashback and buyback, I suppose, in that you have to wait for it to hit your graveyard to cast it again, and like, but the buyback cost is its mana cost plus discarding a land, so it's kind of like that. It's kind of a weird ability, and so this deck kind of leans into it, I think, a little bit, because I think most of the retrace cards were in black and green, and yeah, it's okay. But I don't think it's the main focus of the deck. It's just kind of useful, like if you've got spare land late game and you don't know, and you don't necessarily need it, you can at least pitch it to do this. 2 Viridescent Wisps, 1 green mana. Target creature becomes green, gets +1/+0 on turn, draw a card. Very, very basic pump spell, just +1/+0 and draw a card. I suppose that's okay for like just 1 green mana, I suppose. And you know, you could use this on an opponent's creature, turn them green, potentially switch off bonuses they're getting from being certain colours, possibly, I guess. Yeah. Savage Conception, 3 and 2 green. For a sorcery, put a 3/3 green beast token into play, retrace. This I feel is kind of too expensive, even with the retrace, the possibility of casting this more than once. Like 5 mana just to make a 3/3 with no abilities at sorcery speed is kind of weak. I think. Yeah, this is not one of the best retrace cards. I'm not a fan of that one. Then we have a single Cankerous Thirst, which is 3 and a hybrid. If black was meant to play Cankerous Thirst, you can have a target creature get -3/-3 in turn 10, and if green was spent to cast it, you get another creature have +3/+3 turn to 10. So it's kind of overcosted if you only do one of these modes, but if you manage to get both, it's it's a kill spell and a pump spell, and the pump spell could also essentially double as a kill spell as well. So yeah, I think Cankerous Thirst is okay. Yeah. And 2 Gifted the Deity, so this is the green-black demigod aura. So 5 mana, so it's one of the more expensive ones. As long as enchanted creature is black, it gets Death Touch, and as long as enchanted creature is green, it gets +1/+1, and all creatures able to block it do so. So yeah, you make yourself this, if you want to relive the classic like Basilisk plus Lure days. This is it in one card essentially. Putting this on. I would say put this on the Odious Trow, which has regenerate as well, and then you swing with it. Everything has to block it. It kills 3 things because it's then got at least 3 power. And then it regenerates, and you do it again next turn. And meanwhile, all your other stuff is getting through. So yeah, this is super mean. That's why I think why it's a bit pricey. But yeah, it's like I've said before, like all these hybrid color god auras are really, really good, I think. So let's talk about what could have been. So overall, I think the card selection in this is pretty good. I think the only thing that stood out was, I say, like the 2 random retrace cards, and the Mero Bone Gnawer is maybe not okay. But yeah, so let's talk about what could have been. So I mean, just to clarify, I do think the 2 rares in this are really good. Creekwood Liege is really, really good. Doomgape is okay. maybe let's consider something alternative instead of Doomgape. So Necro Skitter is like this super fun and mean card. So it's 3 mana for a 1/4 with Wither. Whenever a creature an opponent controls with a -1/-1 counter and is put into a graveyard, you get it back into play under your control. Super mean. You've got so much Wither in the deck, so you're killing stuff and then reanimating it on your side. This could have been really good. I think it would actually make the deck almost too good if it had it. Deity of Scars. This could have been possible. This is the green-black big like god spirit avatar thing. So 5 hybrid mana for a 7/7 trample. Comes in play with 2 -1/-1 counters on it, and you can remove a -1/-1 counter to regenerate it, which is pretty fun. Like it gets it grows more as you take the counters off it to regenerate it, which is pretty fun. Yeah, that could have been a possibility. Blowfly Infestation, which combos with all the -1/- counters you've got going on. Whenever a creature's put into graveyard from play, if it had a -1/- counter on it, put a -1/- counter on target creature, and this can like cause like a real like ripple effect. If you, especially your opponent's got a bunch of like X1s, you put a counter on one, it dies. It had a counter on it, put a counter on another one, and really good. And to go along with that, Flourishing Defenses, which is 5 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a -1/- counter is placed on a creature, not one you control, not an opponent's creature, just a creature, you create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. So make a bunch of tokens, which is really good for, for Creekwood Liege, it bumps them up. It's good for Doomgape, who can eat them. Yeah, I just think it would go incredibly well in this deck. But yeah, so maybe some overlap with the black-red Army of Entropy deck from Shadowmoor in the fact that it's like focusing so much on -1/-1 counters. But yeah, overall, I think these cards could have been in here, but I think there's run the risk of it maybe then being a bit too good. But yeah, I can't think of any other good cards here that would have comboed well with like -1/-1 counters, especially like Quill Spike as well. Quill Spike is so good because Quill Spike makes any card that uses -1/-1 counters like super good. Anyway, so what do I think of the deck? Well, as you can tell, I think this one's pretty strong, actually. Out of all the Eventide ones, would I say it's the best one? I don't think it's... it might be that, like, and in terms of, like, raw power, I think it might be, like, the best one. And, like, in terms of, like, card selection, I think it's very good. I don't think there's really any bad cards in it as such. I think even, like, necessarily, like, the bad cards aren't terrible. So yeah, overall I think this one is pretty good. But what did you think of the deck after looking at it? Did you have any thoughts on it? Did you own this deck? Do you have any stories or opinions connected to this deck or the cards in it? Please, if you do, put a comment below. Always love seeing comments on these videos. But that's me for today. I'm going to be back next time to look at another Eventide pre-constructed deck. But until then, thanks for watching and listening. Have a great day.